So let's start with a question for you. Have you ever heard the name Atlantis? Or maybe Lemuria?
Yeah.
And when you hear those names, do you feel this, this strange emotional resonance?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a memory from history class, right? It's a feeling of knowing, or maybe touching a deeply hidden sense that you just can't quite explain.
Exactly. And that resonance is precisely what makes these legends so incredibly powerful. In deep psychology, we see this all the time. For most people, these aren't just, dusty old stories. They function as powerful archetypes. You could call them original models that are stored deep inside the collective subconscious of all of us.
So they're like foundational ideas about paradise and knowledge collapse.
And we all share them.
Okay, so that feeling of familiarity, that pull,
Yeah.
it's like a doorway into this huge trove of knowledge. But our sources are pretty quick to warn us that this door, well, it can also be a trap.
It's a very subtle trap because it plays directly on the ego. It's a natural human thing, really. When you're faced with what feels like secret knowledge, you want to feel special.
Right, you start thinking, oh, I must have come from there. I'm a descendant of this great civilization.
Precisely. Or, and this is even more common, you might use these myths as an escape. The present world feels tiring, it's too much, so you retreat into this fantasy. It becomes a kind of spiritual avoidance.
So if we're not here to chase fantasies or, go scuba diving for lost ruins, what's the actual mission of this deep dive?
The mission is to use these legends intelligently. We're here to treat them like complex parables, as powerful tools for what we call values retrieval. We want to help you recover the core strengths, the virtues, the truths that you might have lost in your own life, things you sacrificed just to get by.
Okay, let's unpack this. The information is dense, so we need a framework right now. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost in the romance of it all and miss the point. We're going to look at this through three distinct lenses.
The first lens is the mythic layer, or, simply the story.
The postcard image.
Exactly. The luminous city, the super advanced tech, the high-level knowledge, and of course, the big catastrophic collapse. This layer is like a mental databank. It holds information humanity's forgotten over time.
And then layer two.
Layer two is the self-modeling layer. We call it the mirror. This is where the myth starts working on you, personally. It reflects these timeless human conflicts. Knowledge versus wisdom, ego versus honesty, fear versus heart.
So it's a warning.
It's a huge warning. It screams that high power without heart will always, always lead to a collapse. No exceptions.
And that brings us to the third layer, which is the whole point of this.
Yes, the one we're really after, the practical layer or the application. And here's the key idea that separates the real seekers from those caught in that ego trap. The lost knowledge we're looking for. It isn't some secret formula or a map to a treasure. It's actually the core values that you, the listener, abandoned.
Things you gave up to survive a tough time or to be accepted by a group that didn't really get you.
That's it. And that gives us our rule for this whole conversation.
Okay, what's the rule?
If, after listening to this, you feel like you want to escape the world and just live in this fantasy, you're using it wrong.
Right.
But if this deep dive gives you the energy, the clarity to return to your life right now and take responsibility to clean up your corner of the world, then you're using it correctly. That's the test.
That clarity is exactly what we need. Okay, let's dive into that first level, the story, and let's start with Atlantis. The sources always describe it as the city of knowledge and power. They talk about this incredible technology, a deep understanding of energy fields, mastery over nature. They had the science completely figured out.
But what's so fascinating is that all the legends agree on the core failure.
Yeah.
It wasn't an alien invasion. It wasn't a random natural disaster that kicked it all off. It was an internal problem, an imbalance. The human heart did not develop fast enough to keep up with the incredible power they had.
Wait, a mismatch. So it's like getting the keys to a nuclear reactor before you've learned how to manage your own anger issues.
Precisely. That's the perfect analogy. That imbalance defines the crisis. And from that crisis, we get 4 foundational cautionary scenes that just repeat through the legend. Lessons for us today.
Okay, tell us about the first warning sign.
The first is what we can call the God complex. When the Atlanteans could control so much power, when they could literally rearrange nature, the ego starts to whisper, I am supernatural. I am above the rules. And the moment that feeling of superiority replaced the search for truth or humility, the knowledge itself got twisted. Knowledge meant for healing started to be used for control, for dominance.
That's the scary part, isn't it? The line between a tool for healing and a weapon. it's just the intent of the person holding it.
It is. And once that intent shifts, it leads you straight into the next scene.
Which is?
Internal division. The downfall didn't start with an external war. It started with a war in the heart of the civilization itself. The sources describe this deep, irreconcilable conflict. One group wanted to use knowledge for freedom, for healing. The other wanted power, wanted control through fear.
And that's a perfect mirror for the struggle inside all of us, right? The true self versus the shadow.
Every single person, every single day.
Which leads to the inevitable result, the third big warning.
The system failure. And this is maybe the strongest warning our ancestors could give us. Any energy, any power, I don't care if it's financial, political, technological, if it isn't checked by honesty and integrity, it will turn back and destroy its owner. It always does.
So there's a formula for it?
The formula for destruction is chillingly simple. High power plus an unready heart. You can't outrun that equation, ever.
That's terrifying because you see it everywhere, from a person who suddenly gets rich to a whole civilization mastering the atom. But the story doesn't just end there, in total destruction. There's a fourth scene.
Right, the preservation of knowledge. After the collapse, the legends say that some of the core knowledge wasn't just lost, it was protected. It was wrapped and preserved in different ways. It wasn't taken from us, it's just waiting. Waiting for the day humanity has the mature heart that's needed to use it correctly and safely.
And to really understand that mature heart, we have to bring in the counterbalance to Atlantis' power. Right. We have to talk about Lemuria.
Yes. If Atlantis is the archetype of power, then Lemuria is the memory of the heart. The sources describe it as a civilization that was focused almost entirely on integration, on gentleness, coexistence with nature, emotional harmony, deep inner listening. It's wisdom over force.
So the message from these two myths isn't to pick a side. It's not about being all heart or all power. It's asking you to look at your own life and ask.
The self-modeling question.
Yeah. In your life today, are you operating mostly from power, trying to force things to happen? Or are you operating from the heart, focusing on alignment and inner truth?
And that brings us right to the practical layer. Because the idea of a lost civilization isn't just ancient history. It happens to us as individuals every single day. We abandon parts of ourselves under pressure.
This is where the mirror turns right on you, the listener. You have to ask some really tough personal questions here. Think back. Who were you before the world made you? Cynical or hardened? What did you love or believe in before you felt like you had to put on all this armor?
How gentle were you with yourself? See, that's how we define lost knowledge in a practical way. It's not a secret formula locked away in a pyramid. It is the core values you intentionally abandoned, sacrificed, just to survive or be accepted.
Maybe you traded courage for comfort or truth for just a moment of safety?
Exactly. And because of that, the return is absolutely not about trying to remember past lives or chase some spiritual high. That's just the ego trap talking again.
So what is it?
The true return is about creating a new life, right now, in the present, without abandoning yourself anymore. It's about building a better future based on those reclaimed values. That is the entire purpose of this work.
Okay, so as you start the self-exploration, you have to know the pitfalls. The story of Atlantis shows us the ego cycle in action. We need to highlight the 3 traps you absolutely have to watch out for.
The first one is called nostalgia escape. This is where you use the Atlantis story as an actual excuse to check out of your real life, because it feels hard. That gives you 0 power. The sources are so clear on this. These legends are meant to recharge you to fight life, to face right now with new energy, not to be an exit door.
Trap number 2 might be the most destructive. We call it spiritual inflation.
Oh.
Or the pious ego. This is when you start thinking, oh, I get it, I'm awake, but everyone else is asleep, or I come from a higher place.
And look, the problem isn't the origin story. The problem is the posture it creates. Where you supposedly come from is totally irrelevant compared to the quality of compassion and integrity you show people right now.
Humble application beats a lofty origin story every single time.
Every time. And finally, trap 3, the fear loop. This happens when you just consume too much information about collapse, about control, until you become paranoid. You start believing everything is a dark conspiracy. If you feel that fear rising, you have to stop. Just stop consuming information.
And what's the solution?
Immediately increase grounding, go for a walk, sleep, eat a good meal, and then complete one small, tangible, real-world task. That action pulls you out of the fantasy and back into reality where you have agency.
This can't just be theory. Let's make this practical. We want to bring Lemuria, heart, back into balance with Atlantis, power, inside you. So we're going to guide you through a very brief mental exercise, a little values retrieval workshop.
Okay. Step 1 is to ground. Take about 2 minutes right now. We'll do some simple breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6. Just do this for 6 rounds. And as you breathe, silently repeat this affirmation. I am returning to myself. I am not running from the world. You're making a commitment to be present.
Step 2, identify. Now, mentally answer 2 questions. First, who did I used to be that I genuinely miss the most? And I mean your core self, not something superficial. And second, what core value did I sacrifice to survive the recent past? Give it a name. Is it courage, truth, creativity, gentleness? Name it.
Step 3, 1 constraint. To protect a value, you need boundaries. So write a boundary statement. To maintain the value of your value, I will not further your destructive behavior. 4, for example, if your value is peace, your statement might be, to maintain peace, I will not scroll social media after 11 p.m. You have to cut the energy leak.
And finally, step 4, 1 action. Now select 1 small, confirming action you can take in the next 24 hours. Something that proves this value is back online. Don't plan a whole life change, just plan 1 small win. Maybe it's speaking 1 honest sentence you've been holding back, or spending just 20 minutes on that creative project you dropped. A small success today builds momentum.
And for anyone who wants to continue this, the sources lay out a simple 7-day return protocol. The goal here is consistency, not perfection. Day 1, you choose that value. Day 2, you identify and cut the energy leak, that destructive habit.
Day 3 is about setting a real boundary, saying no, just once, in a situation where you normally would have betrayed yourself. That's power controlled by heart. Day 4 is for creative work. Day 5 is for caring for the body water, walking, sleep. Day 6 is a silent check-in. You just ask, where did I abandon myself today?
And on day 7, you review. You look back at the week, not to judge yourself, but just to notice. Have you increased your overall calmness and kindness? To yourself and to others, that's the real measure.
So in the end, these legends of Atlantis and Lemuria, they're not asking for archaeological proof. They're just a giant mirror. They show us this timeless human flaw. We let our hunger for external power get way ahead of our internal character, our heart.
They warn us that the knowledge is protected. It's waiting until we're truly ready.
So the challenge the myths leave us with is this. If you got more power, more knowledge, more influence tomorrow, if you got everything you ever wanted, could you still maintain the heart of humanity? Or would you fall into that God complex?
That's the provocative question we want to leave you with today.
Absolutely. And our central rule holds true. If listening to this deep dive leads you to take more responsibility for your life, to align your actions with your heart in the present, you have used this information correctly.
Next time, we're going to go deeper into this with a dive we're calling the distortion motif. We'll focus on how true, valuable knowledge gets twisted and packaged and sold, and why discernment, good old critical thinking, is the most vital weapon you have against the system failures of today.
We'll see you then for the next deep dive.